Have you ever wondered what truly unexpected and almost secret habits quietly take root in the lives of people once they cross the invisible threshold into their later years? Habits that not only defy stereotypes, but reveal a side of human nature few ever talk about. You might think you know the answer. Perhaps imagining knitting, gardening, or reminiscing about the good old days. But the truth is far more layered, more mysterious, and sometimes a little shocking, because these habits emerge not from the cliches of aging, but from a lifetime of hidden desires, subtle psychological shifts, and the freedom that comes when one finally stops living according to the expectations of others. Take, for example, the curious phenomenon I call midnight wandering, where many older individuals, long past the need for early work alarms, find themselves staying awake deep into the night, pacing their homes or sitting in dimly lit kitchens, sipping tea, not out of insomnia, but because those quiet hours feel like stolen time. A secret pocket of life where the world stops making demands and their thoughts can roam unrestrained. And this nocturnal habit often evolves into other late-life quirks, such as collecting strange little objects, odd-shaped rocks from daily walks, foreign coins that have no value, or even broken gadgets, treasures they never intend to use but keep because each item feels like a fragment of a story they now have time to appreciate. Another surprising habit is what I call reverse rebellion, where people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond begin breaking small social rules they once followed religiously, wearing mismatched socks to formal events just because they like the colors, refusing to answer the phone unless they actually want to talk, or rearranging their living spaces in ways that make no sense to visitors but feel perfectly right to them, as though their home has become an extension of their mind. There's also the rise of micro-adventures, spontaneous decisions to explore a part of town they've never visited, taste a dish they once thought they'd hate, or learn something completely unrelated to their past life's work. Like a retired accountant taking up street photography, or a grandmother teaching herself how to identify edible wild plants. And the reason behind this is fascinating. When you realize that your time is precious, you stop asking whether something is practical and start asking whether it makes you feel alive. Some develop what I call selective memory gardening, not just forgetting unpleasant events, but actively curating their recollections, replaying certain beautiful or absurd memories so often that they become richer and more vivid than the original moment, effectively creating a mental museum where only the exhibits they love are displayed. Others cultivate invisible generosity and quietly paying for someone's groceries, leaving anonymous gifts for neighbors, or secretly funding a young person's education without ever taking credit. Finding joy in the act of giving without recognition. An equally surprising habit is radical honesty in safer spaces, where they will say things they never would have dared in earlier years, not to shock or offend, but because they've realized how liberating it is to speak without the heavy filter of social diplomacy. And yet, in public, they may become more reserved than ever, choosing carefully when and where to be fully authentic. You'll also see the habit of curated solitude, where they deliberately carve out stretches of alone time, not out of loneliness, but because they've learned that solitude isn't empty. It's full of reflection, creativity, and emotional clarity. And during these moments, they may even talk to themselves out loud, not in confusion, but as a way of hearing their own thoughts more clearly. In some cases, people discover a late-life fascination with nature that borders on spiritual, a daily need to feel sunlight on their skin, to notice the changing angle of shadows throughout the seasons, or to stop and watch ants for 20 minutes simply because the small mechanics of life now feel like proof of a grand design. Others develop a form of delayed defiance and finally pursuing dreams they put off for decades because someone once told them it was impractical, whether that means dyeing their hair a bold color, traveling alone to a country they've never seen, or starting yet a small online business just for fun. And here's the twist. Many of these habits, though shocking to outsiders, are actually signs of mental and emotional renewal rather than decline, proof that the later years can be a kind of second adolescence, but one that comes without the awkwardness and with a sharper understanding of who you really are. This period often brings a strange but beautiful detachment from the race for external validation, likes, titles, promotions, and a growing obsession with experiences that feel deeply personal, even if they seem trivial to everyone else. You'll see elders who start wearing the same lucky jacket every day, not because they believe in luck in the traditional sense, but because that jacket has become a symbol of comfort, resilience, or a memory of someone they loved. Some even develop sensory rituals, like eating breakfast in complete silence to fully taste every bite, or listening to the same piece of music every morning as a way to anchor their day. And these rituals can be as sacred to them as prayer. Perhaps one of the most surprising habits is the conscious shrinking of social circles, not due to bitterness, but because they've realized that depth of connection matters more than breadth, and that a single honest conversation is worth more than 100 polite exchanges. Others, oddly enough, become more experimental in their appearance, not to impress, but to express. A retired teacher who starts wearing neon sneakers everywhere, or a man in his 70s who decides suspenders and a bowler hat will be his signature look for the rest of his life. Then there's the subtle but profound habit of time stretching, where they slow their routines on purpose, taking twice as long to make coffee, to fold laundry, to water plants, because they've discovered that rushing makes life feel shorter, while moving slowly makes moments expand. All of these habits, while they might puzzle younger people, are born from the same realization. When you've lived long enough to see how quickly decades can vanish, you stop living for what's next and start savoring what's now. And that shift, more than any fountain of youth, is what makes the later years unexpectedly rich, rebellious, and shockingly full of life.